So there's a new foldable smartphone in town from one of the OGs in the folding phone space. But how does Samsung's new Galaxy Z Fold 5 compare with Google's first foray into the space with the Pixel Fold? Two completely different approaches, two incredibly great options, but which should you buy? So I'm currently here in Seoul in South Korea courtesy of Samsung for their Unpacked event, hence the video hotel room backdrop. But I have had a chance to play around with the Fold 5 and I must admit, my first impressions are one of, while it's undeniably premium and cutting edge and top tier with a great camera and incredible display technology, it's slightly underwhelming, especially if you're coming from the Fold 4 or even back as far as the Fold 3. As great as it is, it feels a little bit safe. You do have a few key upgrades though, including amongst other things, new colours like this signature blue, a new zero gap hinge, a slightly faster chip in the form of the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy, upgraded LPDDR5X RAM and UFS 4.0 storage seen in the S23 Ultra. This combined will see you obtain marginally better CPU performance, fairly substantial improved GPU performance, and more than double the read and write speeds with better power efficiency too. More on battery compared to the Pixel Fold shortly. But on the flip side, excuse the pun, you also have basically the same dimensions as the Fold 4, a very similar camera to the Fold 4, the exact same 4400 mAh battery as the Fold 4. So is the added £200 worth it? Or should you throw your money at the Pixel Fold? I'm going to compare and score the two phones over 7 different categories, starting with design and build quality, and first and foremost, form factor. Now I appreciate this section is incredibly subjective, but I can only really go off the fact that I've used them both and I'm offering you an opinion. But for context, I'm a phone first, tablet second kind of person, and while you can use both phones in both of these scenarios, the Pixel Fold just feels like a better option for that outer display use. At 5.8 inches, it's shorter than Samsung's 6.2 inch option, so one-handed use is easier when reaching for the top of the display, settings and the like. It's also wider, so it doesn't feel quite as cramped for typing and just navigating in general. It just feels like a normal, smaller phone, which I'm all for. I'm still not quite sure why small phones don't sell very well, but I'm certainly here for it. Sadly, however, once you open the two respective phones, that's where the advantage for Google dissipates, because the Pixel Fold seems light years behind in terms of the appearance inside. Both flexible panels, like with the outer displays, are 120Hz, but the bezels are pretty enormous on Google's offering, reminding me slightly of the Pixel 3, 4 era of phones that Google produced, the catastrophe era in terms of design. And on top of that, the Pixel Fold doesn't really fully fold flat, which isn't ideal. Folded and unfolded really is a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde for Google. The larger bezels are because Google decided to, amongst other things, house another selfie camera, whereas Samsung opted for their under-display technology. And the resulting aesthetics are absolutely stunning. The camera quality of that lens is still not quite there, but I personally don't think you actually need a camera inside on the display anyway, when you have already one on the outer display and on the rear as well. So it's a luxury that's not necessary. More on cameras in a second. Both have stereo speakers, both have an IPX8 water resistance rating, and both have a near zero gap when closed. But the Z Fold 5 will offer you greater protection with the latest Corning Gorilla Glass Victus 2, an upgrade on the Plus seen on the Z Fold 4, which in itself is an upgrade on the Pixel Fold's standard GGV. Subjectively, I prefer the outer display on the Pixel Fold enough to make allowances for the rest of its shortcomings, but objectively, the Z Fold 5 has enough factual build quality advantages, plus the addition of the S Pen in its new and improved case potentially, which is really slick, that I have to score this first category as a tie. Now, while we briefly touched on displays, there really is only one winner here. Neither are necessarily industry leading in terms of crease prevention, with both being fairly visible if you choose to go hunting for it, and neither are quite up to the level of what Oppo have been doing recently. But the Z Fold 5 seems brighter, more vivid, and just does what Samsung phones have been doing right for years. I'm not saying the Pixel Fold displays are bad, but if we're talking smartphone display technology, we're talking Samsung. Software is another matter though, and this isn't quite as cut and dried. On one hand, on the Pixel Fold, you have stock Android, which I'm a big advocate for. And on the other hand, you have Samsung's latest One UI on the Fold 5. In straight phones, I would probably go with stock Android. I would choose a Pixel. But we're not talking standard phones here, we're talking foldables. And that's a different kettle of fish. This is now Samsung's 5th Fold generation, and it really shows. Unlike pretty much any foldable I've used, from a software side of things, it just feels complete. It just works. You again have the taskbar introduced on the Fold 4, and you can still open multiple apps seamlessly at the same time to really make the most of that larger 7.6-inch inner display for all of your multitasking needs. On top of that, you have things like the new upgraded Flex mode, which allows you to use the lower region when folded as a kind of touchpad. And while I can't say I've really had that much time to play with it, and not sure I would probably use it all that much, it is nice to see an attempt at pushing boundaries that I feel Samsung have been a little bit unadventurous with in the last few releases. Unfortunately for Google, on the other hand, it really does feel like the first gen that it is. You do have recently used apps that appear on the menu bar at the bottom, but the way it doesn't let you customize your inner and outer displays differently, so they are, as things stand, directly mirrored, I think is a mistake. And things like multitasking just aren't as fluid, seamless, or intuitive. The Z Fold 5 just feels that little bit more intentional, as opposed to let's create a folding phone and then just slap our standard software over the top and kind of hope it works. The Pixel Fold just feels a little bit less polished, which is wild considering Google make Android. The Galaxy Z Fold series is still the most optimized foldable smartphone I've tested, and I don't expect things to change anytime soon. Something that I do think should have changed though in the Z Fold 5 is the battery capacity. We're still sat at 4,400 mAh, the same as the Z Fold 4, which is considerably smaller than the Pixel Fold's 4,821 mAh. Obviously, both have slightly different optimizations, and the Pixel Fold is on the older LPDDR5 RAM and UFS 3.1 storage, which may have a slight effect on battery drain, but it is hard to argue that the sheer size difference will not be evident. Of course, whilst touching on the more advanced RAM and storage on the Z Fold 5, we may as well talk about the chipset, which again, Samsung has the upper hand. Google's Tensor T2 chip is a very, very solid piece of engineering and will do more than fine in almost every scenario, but it's just not as capable as the 8 Gen 2 if we're talking raw numbers. It's a no-brainer, but camera on the other hand is not as clear cut. Again, subjectivity will come in here depending on what you like from your images, but they both are pretty complete camera rigs. Samsung probably offer more than Google in terms of customization and special fun features, but the Pixel Fold has faster and, in my opinion, more impressive software processing. So family and pet portraits and moving subjects just are still better, in my opinion, on a Pixel. You also get the advantage of 5x optical zoom on the Pixel Fold compared to just the 3 on the Z Fold 5. So long distance zoom shots may look slightly sharper on the Pixel Fold because it has that added organic optical zoom as opposed to being digitally enhanced. Outside of that, both have pretty industry standard primary and ultra wide angle lenses, so I just feel that the Pixel Fold just pips the Z Fold 5 in this department, but I appreciate that this one could go a bit either way. It's very, very close, so you can score this what you want. I'm giving it Pixel. And then there's the all-important price. The Pixel Fold starts from £1,749 for the 256GB of storage option. And when that news dropped, I thought that is mind-blowing. That's eye-watering for a first-gen foldable phone. But somewhat sneakily, Samsung have upped their prices too. They've also put their lowest offer for 256GB at the exact same £1,749. I kind of see why they've done it, because they're backing their product, saying we think that ours is a better device, so we're going to match it in terms of price, and hopefully you'll buy ours. But at the same time, they're forgetting that the Z Fold 4, which is still a very similar device, was £200 cheaper. That's quite a big jump. Personally, I put a lot of weight on that outer display, and using it in folded one-handed mode So I could see myself using the Pixel Fold probably slightly more than the Z Fold 5. But I feel, from an objective point of view for you guys, I think there's enough about the Z Fold 5 to suggest that it is a slightly more well-rounded device. And it would be the one out of the two that I would suggest for that same amount of money, but I probably wouldn't go with either given the choice. Why, you ask? Well, quite simply, for £200 cheaper, and maybe even more so with potential upcoming sales, the Z Fold 4 is still a very, very good device and still matches to a lot of what the current 2023 foldables are producing. I would probably go for that, make the saving, go and buy a pair of headphones or tablets or smartwatches on top of your foldable phone, or buy something for your partner, a nice gift. Keep them sweet. That's what I would do. But hey, I'm just a man sat in my pants. You can't see because I'm just just half a video. New trousers, too warm. This video's gone a long way off topic. I'm just here in Seoul, South Korea. Thanks again to Samsung for sending me here to cover the event for you. My name's Adam, you've been the best as always. If you have enjoyed the video, drop a like, subscribe to this channel, would mean the world to me. Follow me on my other social medias, Twitter, Instagram and TikTok, all ASBYT official. I love you and leave you. I'll see you in the next one. It's ASBYT, peace out.